Hi, welcome to episode 20 of the Brewgooders dynamic duo of beer and comics. We're a dynamic trio because we're joined by Dave from Reenactment Scotland.
Yeah.
For the second time a week. It's cool because it doesn't matter. I was going to say something stupid and I didn't mean to. And this is coming quite stupid. We're drinking
He's like barely a can.
It's not my best opening ever, is it? We're drinking Pineapple Express IPA from Tiny Rebel Brewing, and I believe it's a collaboration with Polly's Brew Company as well. Wanted to talk about this specifically because I bought it in Tesco's, which is a massive supermarket chain, and we discovered Tiny Rebel through this podcast journey, so it's quite exciting to see something that we've discovered at quite a small scale kind of exploding into big shops. 6.2%. What are we getting from it?
Pineapple. Definitely. Massive pineapple.
Really strong, eh?
I mean, it smells, honestly, it is like bars pineapple aid.
Yeah.
You know,
alcoholic bars.
to drink, it tastes like a double IPA, a deeper.
6.2%, so that would make sense.
It's getting on there, you know, it's got that strong flavour that you'd expect from that.
So Tiny Rebel are South Wales and Polly's Brew Company are North Wales, so it's like a total...
It's got grapefruit in it as well.
Yeah,
That's
you get that taste. Aye. So yeah, quite exciting. It was quite cheap as well. I think that was only £3.
Yeah.
It smells really nice as well.
I would argue that I'm enjoying the smell more than I'm enjoying the taste, to be honest.
Yeah, perhaps. I find that sort of double IPA flavour just a bit too bitter for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it smells lovely.
But yeah. I was quite excited to see that. What have we got comic wise? Who would like to go first with comics?
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
So I have got this one, which Pushinka, which I picked up at the Edinburgh Comic Arts Fair from Amy Lockwood. Let's move William Wallace out of the way so we can actually see this Russian dog. So this is a true story. Bizarrely, we have a beer coming up based on a true story, and it's about a dog that was gifted from Russia to President Kennedy back in 1961.
Okay.
So the Russians were well known for sending dogs to space, and some of them made it back, and some of them had puppies. So one of the puppies was sent, Pushinka, which means fluffy in Russian, was sent from was it Khrushchev? I think it might have been the president at the time. But anyway, from Russia, with love to President Kennedy. It was a wee present, and of course the CIA and Secret Service would probably have had a field day probing that animal and make sure it wasn't bugged or it was trained to kill the president, rip his throat out. And this is that story.
The trigger word is freedom.
Yeah. And so this is the story of Pushinka, and the Kennedys had a dog of their own called Charlie at the time, and they did breed. And then puppies, and you know, it's at that really awkward time of the Cold War, you know, and
62 is the
missile
crisis.
So it was and that's mentioned in it. The missile crisis is there with Cuba, and there was a lot of suspicion about the dog, you know, were they taking the piss, you know, we were the first into space sort of thing, and we've got the best missiles.
Yeah.
Here's a dog,
you know.
But it's quite good. It's quite a touching wee story about the dog and the family and everything.
That's pretty cool.
I won't spoil it, but I didn't even know this dog existed until I got the book.
It's actually a great untold story.
Yeah, and Amy told me that, you know, it was a true story, and I read the book and then I looked it up, and pretty much she's kind of got the story.
Yeah.
And really nice artwork. You know, I really like the kind of artwork. The kind of wee fluffy dog is quite cute.
The black and white mixed with colours, with the
red, white and blue.
Yeah.
You know, which just predominates throughout the whole book. Really nice, good one, nice one, Amy.
Yeah, awesome.
Well done. So,
cool.
what's next?
Yeah, our second beer is the second time we've tried a beer from Manual Brewing Company. So we did this elevator quite early on in the podcast. I can't remember. This one's called Based on a True Story, and it's a chocolate wheat porter. It's 6.2. It doesn't smell or taste overly. I wasn't getting that from the last beer we had was quite potent in terms of alcohol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one does taste more lethal than it lets on. Like.
It's quite smoky.
Yeah, I think it tastes stronger
Yeah,
than
I think in the morning you wouldn't have much of the story left.
It's certainly got that chocolatey flavour about it.
Yeah. It's quite smoky.
It's
I'm trying to work out what
porter.
we've had smoked porter before, but there's nothing in here that would suggest spices. There's molasses and spices. What's a molasses? What's
Molasses.
Molasses.
Molasses. It's like
You just-
syrup.
Oh, okay.
It's like syrup stuff.
Okay.
Made.
I've never heard of that.
Maize, maybe? I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe look it up.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Molasses.
I've never heard of that before.
It's a very American
It's called
thing.
molasses, which
It's
I think
a very
is a
American
sea thing, isn't it?
No, I used to work in a maltings.
Yeah, of course you did, yeah.
Making malt for whiskey, right? And all the bits that came off and all the kind of shavings and stuff that were left over and the dust used to get made into pellets for cattle feed.
Yeah.
And one year, for some reason, it went particularly dry.
Yeah.
So they bought some molasses in. They bought some molasses to mix with it
Molasses.
and to bind it together.
Yeah.
Which was fine, but it was quite cold. It's Scotland after all.
Yeah,
It was
of
quite
course,
cold.
yeah.
So what they did was they did it in this big vat, and they put like an immersion heater in it, right, to heat it up
Yeah.
so they could, actually pour the stuff. The only thing is, somebody left this on all night, and it boiled over.
Oh no.
It's black treacle. It's black treacle.
Yeah, and it went all over the place.
Oh my goodness.
But that's not the end of the story. One of the guys couldn't let this go to waste, so he brought in like a loaf of bread and like, dipped it in the molasses.
Oh no.
And ate it.
Oh.
That had been all over the floor. True story.
The black treacle, did you say? I think that's the smokiness,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's burnt sugar really,
Yeah.
isn't it? And it's black. So yeah, it's nice. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying
Couldn't
it.
drink a lot of it because I think it
That's why it's
strong flavour.
It sounds bad, but like my gran has horses and like they have sugar beet, and that's what I'm smelling off of it.
Oh.
Okay.
The stuff they put into the food for horses, which is sugar the same. It'd be the same stuff probably.
So I don't know. We'll see if I can make a segue out of this. Talk about burnt sugar and black treacle.
From dark beers to dark stories.
There we go. That's the one. That's how we do it. Colin lent me this. It's called Sink, by Sink. Welcome to Glasgow by John Lees, Alex Cormack, Sean Lee, and Colin Bell. It's brutal is the word I want to use.
He was at the Dunfermline Comic Con.
Yeah. John was there.
I'm a bit sad I didn't know that. There's been a couple of times I've read something after an event and realised that I've really enjoyed that work and I would like to have met the artist behind it. This was ace. Like you gave it to me and I think you said something along the lines of, "This is the best comic ever."
I would say it's the best comic to come out of Scotland in a long time.
Yeah. It's just wonderful. So it's a compendium of I think 4 stories, 4 main stories, and then there's some sort of smaller poems and written words at the back, and just loads and loads of art. These sort of 1-page comics that are in here as well. One that really upset me that I didn't quite understand, but it was quite strange. But yeah, I think there's 4 main stories. I read it a couple of weeks ago now. But 4 main stories, and it's just about a fictional area of Glasgow called Sinkhill, in the east end of Glasgow, ish, and fictional. But I think it's mentioned in the foreword that though it's fictional, there's
not somewhere you want to visit.
It's not somewhere you want to visit, but there's also riffs and vibes of places in Glasgow, and even though this area of Glasgow is entirely fictional, it still feels like you could imagine this is
Yeah.
in Glasgow. And there's wee bits. I think
And
in the
even urban legends
Yeah.
around Glasgow have been kind of sewn into the stories
Yeah.
as well.
I think in the first story, in particular, I noticed that it starts off with a character missing his bus, and I think he's at the underpass in Central Station in the middle of Glasgow when he misses his taxi. He goes to get the bus and misses that, so he decides that he's going to take himself off and walk home. And he walks past the Barrowlands, which is east, going further out from the centre of Glasgow. So it's enough that you're like you can. And I know I've been to Glasgow quite a few times. I know it well enough to be able to like internally try and map where Sinkhill would be if it was if it was a place. It's just it's quite a scary comic, not one that I'd ever expected to read.
Not safe for work.
No, not safe for work.
Not safe for
We've talked about that. We've talked about that in
class.
comics as well, where like I've read something
Yeah.
and then been reading something next to my wife who's reading just a book in bed, and I'm like,
And
like turning the page so she doesn't see what's.
can I just say, wait till you see volume 2.
I'm really. I can't wait for volume 2. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away. You should just check it out. It's really brilliant. I prefer that. There's lots of. I'm trying to think what I could relate it to. It's very Scottish.
I think what it's closest to is something like an Irvin Welsh novel.
Yeah.
If you've read Filth or something like that.
I was going to say Irvin Welsh mixed with The Purge. You know that film, The Purge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's like just the dialect's very Glaswegian. It's not even Scottish. It's very like colloquial.
Yes.
Yes, that word. Just great. There's two stories that I particularly liked. The story of there's a story of a group of children who one of their friends goes missing, and they decided they're going to try and do something about it. I thought that was really good. Questions about innocence and things like that. And then there was a story about a character who loses her dog, and I think she feels she's above what's going on in the neighbourhood and tries to do something about finding this dog, and is brought down to earth quite horrifically by this is what our town's built on kind of stuff. And it was but drawn beautifully.
I've only got the first part of it. I think I picked up a whole bunch of the first parts of things at Dunfermline Comic Con, and it reminded me of there's a show with like an imaginary unicorn that's on Netflix.
Oh, I'm happy.
Yeah, it's like Happy.
I'll check that out. I see that comes up on my suggested quite a lot, and I'm like,
it's violent.
It was one of those things. My wife doesn't like to watch anything that's like made up, and sometimes I'll put on like adverts for Netflix, and she's like, "Oh, what's this? This looks good. Oh, there's a talking unicorn. We're not watching this." And I'm like, "No, like it's like it's because he's psychotic."
It's his daughter's imaginary friend that he sees.
I'm quite the opposite. I don't like watching things that are set in the real world and real people.
No, I'm the same. It's escapism.
I want to get away from that. Yeah. And Sink is definitely not in the real world.
But I want to find the quote, because like you're right, it isn't in the real world. It's very not. But there's a point where he says like it's just. I can't remember the line. It's just on the fringes of what's real, to the point that you can.
Yeah. Well, the one of the stories is about the clowns in the blue van, abducting children.
Yeah.
And that was an urban legend that went around Glasgow a number of years ago, and that I think is kind of partly where John got the idea for writing Sink.
Familiar and frightening is the phrase he uses. Yeah, that what you said about the van is like.
I think anything that uses proper landmarks and something that you're familiar with will give you that, especially the horror setting.
I think it's quite popular in America as well, and it's published by Comic Stripe, which is an American company. And the Kickstarters for both that issue and the current or the new one were both run in America. Yeah. So clearly there's maybe an expatriate, market for it.
There's quite a nostalgic. I often consider the American view of Scotland, probably quite wrongly, to be that nostalgic one. It's the one about. I remember going to uni when I went to uni in Stirling, and when I took the train from Edinburgh to Stirling in the morning, I would be sharing it with a lot of like American or North American. Tourists who were quite excited that they were on the trail of their ancestors and things like that. I think in my mind that's the American vision I get of like when Americans consider Scotland. But actually, you're right, there's this expatriate kind of scene that kind of probably know what's more reality and
Yeah.
And it's just it was quite an exciting comic to read. It was very brutal. It's the word that keeps coming up in my mind, and it's like the first word on the cover as well. Everyone should just check it out. Like, and I'm glad you went into it.
However, I just kind of totally got sucked in, and I started reading the digital versions, which John was giving out through his newsletter.
Me.
And I started reading them, and was totally sucked into it, and thought I've got to get the volume when it comes out.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I haven't got volume 2 yet, but
yeah, I'm quite excited that such a thing exists. Who, and pardon my last thing I'll say about this, because pardon my ignorance, I don't know who Frank Quietly is.
Frank Quietly
is
a Glasgow-based artist who has drawn Superman. He worked with Mark Miller, so he's a very well-known artist.
I just assumed he was obviously to have a forward and have a place on the cover would mean he was quite an established figure.
Loads of people will know who he is.
Yeah, good. Check it out. You can't even I don't know how much we're allowed to show, and the cover's brutal. And there's Mr. Fox,
Mr. Dig,
cool.
Mr. Dig, sorry,
Mr. Dig, the fox headed character.
He reminded me of a bunch of stuff as well from other media.
I think it can just taps into like maybe childhood a little bit, and your fears as a child as well.
Yeah.
Right, enough about
okay,
Sync.
cool.
It's great. Go and get it if you haven't got it already.
Hi, so it's our last beer to feed into our reenactment theme, because Dave's with us, and we've got a beer and a comic that sort of themed after the medieval, which is your forte, is that right?
Yeah. And it's actually a Collins comic book that he did last year, the year before. It's 2 parts really.
It's been done over several years.
Yeah, it's been done over a while. And it's about Bruce Sandwallace, sort of the story. It's really engaging for kids. It's great.
It is. I use them almost like yearly, like a couple of times a year.
Yeah, loads of school teachers have bought it, and it's kind of nice that kids can draw the pictures and they can engage with history in a kind of different way.
I use particularly the Bruce one, when I'm trying to just get some of my kids that I work with to just read, because they don't like reading, and it's there's some really quite striking imagery and stuff in there, so
it's a great way to sort of engage with history, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the most important thing as a reenactor, and this sort of comic book means a lot to kids, because it's the kind of thing that sparks an interest, and that's what reenactment's sort of about, because it doesn't have to be historically accurate. A lot of reenactment is kind of out there. We make a lot of compromises and things like that, and even the movies make a lot of compromises. Last year's Outlaw King and things like that, they're getting better. They tried really hard with that movie, but it's the engaging interest, and then people get into it and look into it, and it's a great thing about history. It's the same with the comic books. Once you start, you get sucked in. I was saying that earlier, I don't know how it's going to go with that. I was going somewhere with that wee vein there, it's just like a lot of comic books are probably a lot of movies. Everything's all based in history, and that's it's inspiration. And the more you look into history, the more you'll probably help your writing. If you're writing things. What's
your favourite historical inaccuracy in a film? Or media. Whenever you saw something, you're like, that's amazing that they've decided to try and get away with it.
You've always got to go back to the sort of the Braveheart with the no bridge and Stirling Bridge, and it was called the Battle of Stirling Bridge. It's probably the main one.
Yeah.
But the worst one in that movie has got to be where, not for the kids, but where he shags the princess.
Oh yeah, the French,
the French princess, who at the time would have been 9 years old. But in the movie, they just adjust it, and then they make out that she's pregnant, and then all the descendants of the king, I think, they're Wallace's kids.
It's quite a dramatic.
It's quite
a dramatic rewriting.
Some dramatic license taken there. Try not to take that too much liberties in here. Try and right some of those wrongs. There are no blue faces.
No.
There are some kilts, but that was an artist's decision rather than mine.
But it's all about.
It's iconic, the kilt as well, isn't it? And the iconography.
It's completely wrong, but the artwork was done, and without too much editorial
No.
influence.
It's all about engagement. A lot of the time, it's about engagement.
Yeah. Was there that famous quote about Braveheart? I don't know if it was famous. It was a quote about Braveheart about like the way they dress would be. It'd be like if you're looking for another historical equivalent, it would be like World War II soldiers fighting in the ceremonial War of Independence gear. It was just it was that out of time.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Braveheart's a really good film.
Yeah, it's such a good film, but like it's so out there.
In the reenactment scene, do you find how accurate do you need to be? How is there a varying degrees within the scene, or is there?
It's not so much the scene; it's between groups that portray different things and different individuals that portray different things. But a lot of it is really about the engagement.
Yeah.
There's groups there's a wee group that go around doing storytelling, and they portray really well. And they've written it's the Regal Storytellers, and he's written a bunch of fantasy books for kids.
Yeah.
That are really, really good. And then his wife is actually a historian, and she wrote a book on the wars of independence.
Okay.
And like, so they've got both halves there, and they play it quite down the middle, and it's quite good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's what people want as well. People come along to these things and have preconceptions, and then you've got to meet them sort of halfway.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of grey areas where they don't know stuff, so you've got to meet them halfway. They get engaged, and then they can go off and research themselves. They might get into reenactment, they might really get into history, they might really get into movie trivia and things like that. There's a lot there. It's all part of the culture.
That's well smart.
I can tell you, researching that was just a big grey area. Because there's virtually nothing about Wallace at all. And there's no historical documents.
Everything about Wallace.
Three historical documents.
Everything about Wallace is 15th century.
It's all Robin Hood stuff.
Yeah, it's all Robin Hood stuff, and it was all geared up towards what Braveheart was really good. Patriotism. They created patriotism.
Scottish folk hero, isn't
it? I even had. You always get, as soon as you do something that's historical, you get people that will say, there's inaccuracies and things. And one guy got in contact with me and was telling me, Andrew de Murray, as usual, he's not going to get a mention. He's not mentioned. He would have been the commander at Stirling Bridge because he was more senior, and it's terrible what you're doing in your book. You know what? The book wasn't even out, so he hadn't even read it.
Yeah.
And if you do read it, Andrew de Murray's in there. He's got a whole bit of his stories told there. And in my book, I don't specifically say he was the commander, but he's the guy who comes up with the plan. And Wallace goes along with it.
Yeah. There's some really interesting stuff with Wallace, because Wallace actually, after Falkirk, stops being like Guardian of Scotland, goes to France, gets captured by the French king, because he tries to appeal to their court, gets captured there, thrown in prison. He writes a letter to Edward I, and is recorded in it, telling him he has him, and he's like not bothered. So it's weird that somehow it goes back, and there's a bit sort of missing history there. I'd probably maybe find more if I looked into it. But he comes back to Scotland, and then eventually gets betrayed as part of all the story. But that's all part of the sort of fantasy story. You don't really know details about that. You know, he got captured with some letters and things like that, and then went down and got executed and stuff. But he'd been offered up pretty much to Edward beforehand, and he didn't take it. He wasn't bothered. So it's kind of strange.
And that's a nice segue into our beer, because you just mentioned Wallace and the Battle of Falkirk.
So. And this beer was for the Falkirk event that they
1298, which is the year of the
and it was the guys from the Wallace Society and the John de Graham Society that put together a wee selection of beer for their event. And we've got a special mention in the back of the comic from Colin as well, and maybe tell you more about it.
Because after I did the Bruce book, some members of the society that I'd kind of run into in events had said, why don't you do a Wallace book? And these are big hairy guys, and you know we really can't say no to them. So
Okay.
yeah, okay,
Please.
I'll do the Wallace story. Yeah, so that was how this Wallace story came about, and that was my second comic book. And then when this came out, what we did was we took the Bruce story and the Wallace story, put them together, and I got a whole bunch of other artists to do other stories.
Mhm.
You know, so we've got Black Douglas, we've got Thomas Randolph and stuff, all in here as well. So it kind of goes from Alexander the Third falling off his horse and dying and leaving the country without a king, right through to the end of the Battle of Bannockburn. That's kind of the era that's covered by that book. So,
More to come. Yeah.
hopefully, I'm trying to remember how many stories. 7 stories in here. It's been a wee while since I've read it.
That's good. As I say,
And
it's used by
for
local.
those of you listening, there are only 5 copies left. I'm nearly run out.
Ooh.
So yeah, maybe a reprint.
Check it out. What we think of the beer? We've not really talked about the beer. It's by Tris Brewery. We did review. If it's who I think it is. I gave Tris Brewery a Beer of the Week nomination when we went to the Dysart.
At the Dysart place, yeah. It could
There
have
was
been
their
Tris,
double chocolate porter.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was good.
That was good.
You really liked it, but I preferred something else that day.
Yeah.
This one's.
I'm still preparing the double chocolate porter from
it's
that
not.
brewery.
It's not an IPA. It's a bit of a Scottish ale.
It's quite sweet.
Scottish ale, kind of. You know, that
It bills itself as an IPA, and I was quite excited about that. I'm not finding this.
It's almost got a sour taste to it.
Aye.
Yes, okay. It's a good palate cleanser. Based on we've had quite an extensive journey in different beers and tastes this evening, and this one's a nice one to finish on.
Yeah.
But it's not it's not popping out
Slightly
and going.
Dukersy
Yeah.
IPA type thing there, but
I wanted
not,
to be slightly fizzier.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah,
it's got a flatness which I don't think is designed. I think we're drinking it as intended, but I would have liked it to have gone through some sort of fizzing process.
It's unfiltered though.
Mm-hmm. What's the percentage on that? It feels
5.5.
5.
that's quite high. That tastes like a 3.
Yeah, it's really easy going.
A little bit deceptive there.
Yeah. Cool. What's our beer of the week this week?
Wow, what are these 3?
I think again I would say that the manual was a knockout in this particular field, but that's
Pineapple was
was
interesting as a smell, less so as a flavour.
I would drink the pineapple one again. But like
I would probably have it again.
quite
£3
refreshing,
for a big tin.
Yeah, you can't really argue with it.
It's alright. I wouldn't drink loads of it.
No.
And the porter was good, definitely. Yeah, and I think that probably gets it for me, the manual. So
Well, guys, we can come out and discuss what we're doing next week. But thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's good. I'll definitely do it again. I'll see if I can find some meats.
You're welcome anytime.
So we'll look forward to some mead, that sounds good fun.
We'll find some, maybe I'll go out and try and find some historical sort of base stuff.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, why not? We'll do a wee theme thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Always looking for
For sure.
Until then,
Okay,
cheers.
Cheers.